Alright, so let's take a look at this shot. Cool, man. It's working much better. It definitely feels much faster. What stood out first right away, like all this stuff, like I'm buying it. I'm buying into all this stuff. Are you gonna put a Foley track on this ever, or do any sound effects? Because I have a solution if you're not. Because basically you gotta televise that phone even more on the pre-production of Horton. Whenever there was like a sound effect and we didn't have time to have Foley because it was pre-production, there was no sound yet, we would model little musical instrument sounds and have them coming out of the characters' mouths if they were whistling, or just like old school sound effects. And so you could do like little like sound wave type things, or little like musical chimes, or it could literally just be like dashed lines coming up really quick just to like boop 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 boop, that kind of thing, just old school type stuff. And that would really televise that there's a sound coming from over there without you having to go in and do it. I like all the busy work you've done here. Like that all feels really good. Like all the poses are nice. Like I read exactly what he's doing. It's all finessed really well, man. Where it starts to be like, okay, I want to see some significant changes is this cartoony transition here. I think you need to televise that move a little bit more because you've set up such a realistic world here that you got to do this slunk a little bit different. It's just a little bit push for me. All right, so what I mean by televising this is there's needs to be an additional breakdown frame, I think. This is my solution for us. I don't know if this is exactly what it needs to be, but I feel like we need an extra pose of his spine, his rooping a little bit more over this foot, and a little bit of his foot, like doing this like he's about to stretch it out. Then, the next pose is the spine's a little bit over here. Then he's out and he's reaching his foot out, and then he dips and goes. But what's not working is just how great this arc is. I think that's too much. I think this kind of arc, just too much. Like, I feel like I'm going to just act it out real quick. Like, he's going, and you need this antic pose here, and then you need a really, like, this kind of thing. I hope that makes sense. But it's much more like stretching out and then taking that weight and being able to transition over. And you can play with the timing and how much smear you get on that. Because if you want to get there really, really, really fast, obviously you need to do a smear so it doesn't strobe on you. But this is just a little bit too push for me, man. Like this. So just try to come up with a better or different solution. Yeah, another cartoony transition here. I don't know if this is quite working yet. Something about the mechanics of this as well, just the turn. I feel like we're still getting sort of a dull, dead arm over here. Just the pose. I just feel like this whole pose still needs something in there. It's almost like he's listening on the phone, and he's even got his other hand up because he's like, all right, what is it? Like there's got to be some pose in there other than just this like dead arm. I'm trying to think of what kind of transition I would do for this. I know we talked about it last week, but I think it's simplifying those arms and relying a little bit more of what you had in your reference for that. Because I thought it was working. Just a little less windmilly. But I definitely want to feel this stretch frame, like the hands reach its destination, then the spine reach it, and then the legs reach it. So you break up those body parts that they don't all reach their end point at the same time, which I feel like that it kind of does. Again, it's about breaking up that almost like visual twinning that's kind of going on. There's a whole sense of appeal factor with these kind of poses that is for the most part very flat. Like you have a body that's basically completely sideways. Like here's his nose, and you got the spine, and then you have the root here, and then you have an arm that's completely sideways to the camera, and then you have your hand, and right behind it is the other hand, which is an exact mirror of that hand, and this is exact mirrored here, that hand. And then, that kind of mirroring, for the most part, happens even with the feet. So I want you to start thinking about ways you can fix that. and just add some visual interest to that. Maybe it's that you twist that body ever so slightly. So this is his spine, his top spine. This is this one. So instead of having it completely flat against the camera, maybe you put it some dimensional that it's actually twisted a little bit towards us. So then this hand now comes out of here and comes forward. And then of course we have the hand come out here. And then the other hand, I wonder if you can challenge yourself, since now it's coming out of this socket, and now since it's over there, maybe it has a small variation to that hand pose, you know. Maybe it comes over here like this. Maybe it doesn't cradle perfectly. Maybe it's over here like that. So now that there's some dimensionality to this pose, I wonder if this is So let's leave this foot kind of the way it is, right? But what if this foot, what if you rotated it in Z, okay? So now you're actually seeing a lot of the bottom part of the sneaker, which adds just a little bit more dimension to the whole pose. But it's little stuff like that, and maybe this foot here, maybe it rotates back the other way. So then you actually see the top of this foot. So you're seeing all this different like rotating of the objects, and all that stuff just adds a little bit extra appeal. I mean, before, I think when they're talking about the 12 principles of animation, I think this is like solid drawing. But this has to be reconveyed differently in 3D animation, which gets kind of categorized back into the appeal category, which is just making sure there's dimensionality and fullness to your poses. So I definitely want to keep training your eye and keep that in your mind, okay? So keep challenging yourself for those big storytelling poses to push that kind of stuff around.